Hello, welcome to my Wishbone bush replacement guide. Okay, so here's the problem. You might notice some excessive play in your Wishbone bush. Sometimes they pick this up at the MOT, you might get an advisory, and when you look closely you'll see, as on my one here, that the bush has become split and pretty worn. Now thankfully on the See It Cupra net there is a really good guide, and I'll put the link to that below. And I can't really improve upon it. This guy's done a fantastic guide. It's step by step, and this is the guide that I followed. He did go ahead. He replaced both bushes on the Wishbone. He done the larger one and the smaller one. On my car, mine was okay, but my car's only done 24,000 miles. So you know that might be something you need to sort of consider. And also, this guy made up his own actual bush tool. I bought one off of eBay and then just adapted it to do the Cupra bushes. But this is a very good guide. You know, I've done some video just to sort of like take you through it in a bit more detail, but basically this is all you need. It's a great guide, so I'd advise you to sort of read through this a few times before you think about taking on the job. Now I thought when I've done this video I'll include some prices to let you know what you're getting into if you decide to do this yourself. So this is the May 2015 prices. Now the uprated Seat nylon bushes are around about £12 a pair. The Cupra bushes, which are much better quality, are about £30 to £31 for two. Poweflex poly bushes, yeah, great bushes. I've used these in the past. Are expensive, about twice the price of the Cupra bushes, but you should get away with not using the actual insertion tool, and they are easier to fit. If you need to replace your front bushes, typically £10 a pair for a good pair. Don't buy the very cheap ones on eBay because they're crap. Now finally, if you're looking at replacing your front bushes as well as the main console bush, well, it might be cost effective to buy an actual Wishbone kit, which comes with the bottom link as well. Also you get drop links, and for £55 it's a good bargain. You get brand new Wishbones. Okay, we'll just look at the tools required. Now this is to replace your nylon Seat bushes with the Cupra upgrades. So to fit Cupra bushes you are going to need a bush insertion and removal tool. About just over 30 quid on eBay. You won't get the job done without this tool. Now to put the Wishbone back into the bush you're just going to need a cheap ratchet strap. Plenty of these on eBay. Other tools that will come in handy is a soft faced hammer, typically something like this, and it's a good idea if you're going to cut the bushes out to get a couple of new hacksaw blades. Right, no further ado, let's crack on, let's get into it. Okay, according to the guide, the first three bolts that you need to undo are your Wishbone to bottom end bolts here. Yeah, they're done up fairly easy, not particularly tight, but rust might be your problem here. It does pick up a lot of road dirt, so it's a good idea to get in there with some penetration spray and give them a good soaking before you attempt to actually undo them. You might need to replace these bolts, I think. As I say, mine was starting to go quite bad with rust, so it might be an idea to have a little trip to the dealer to get some new bolts. So this is what you get when you take them off. You have this sort of little capture plate here with the three nuts on it, and the sort of three little bolts there. So if you're going to use those again, keep them safe. Okay, now you can go ahead and remove the larger 18mm bolt. This should come out no problem at all. This does allow you to push the Wishbone further towards the car, which just helps you release the bottom end joint here. This can be a little bit tricky on the passenger side, so what I found was that I just needed to raise the actual wheel hub up slightly on a jack, but be very careful when you do this. We're talking just maybe an inch and a half, because you're going to be compressing the spring and you may damage your top joint if you go a bit too heavy handed here, but once you raise it, it just literally pops out. Okay, now to get the Wishbone out, this is why it's really important that you get the car very high up on axle stands, because you really need to push this down to about the 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock position. And as you can see, I'm doing this one-handed here, and I'm just giving it some sort of like abuse, wiggling it backwards and forwards, and mine just sort of like fell out. I had greased them up previously to stop them squeaking, but you know, some people had a bit of trouble with this. Mine literally, there you go, just fell out, no problem at all. Maybe the grease helped beforehand, so maybe that's something you might consider. Grease them up for a couple of weeks before you take the job on. Now if they do give you trouble, and I understand some people can't get a car as high as I did and give you trouble, then just get yourself a fresh hacksaw blade and cut through the remaining rubber retainer on the bush. Check for play in the smaller bushes on the front of the Wishbone. You probably need to put this into a vise and just wiggle a screwdriver or bar in it. If you find any play, then you are going to need to replace these bushes. Just follow the online guide to do that. Mine were fine, I was okay. Okay, now it's time to get on to the larger console bush. So get your extraction tool ready, spray the threads with plenty of oil, plenty of thin oil, just make sure that everything's nice and free and easy. So set the extraction tool up over the bush. We're going to actually be pulling the older bush out into this large cup. Just be careful of your steering rack here because you're working quite close to the gator, so just make sure you don't catch that. It's always a good idea to take your time with this. Use some penetration oil on the back of the tool. You know, if the tool becomes sort of really stiff at any point, then back off and put some oil in and go again. Don't use brute force with this. It shouldn't be that difficult. It's quite easy to turn the sort of spanner with one hand. It's a little time consuming, but you just drag the old nylon bush through the console and into the metal cup. Just take your time. It should get a little easier as the bush sort of works its way out, and towards the end it should come out quite easy. And here is the really crappy, cheap, horrible nylon and rubber blooming bush that Seat give you. And this is the replacement. This is a Cupra bush. Yeah, it's much better quality, but you can sort of see, looking around the sort of aluminium casting here, it is still a little bit kind of rough in places. So on my one, I just got some emery paper or some Scotch-Brite or something. I just gave it a little sort of rub round. You want this as sort of smooth as possible. It will help you put this bush in, because this bush does go in under quite a bit of pressure. And a little lubricant's needed. I just used a little bit of copper grease and a little bit of spray penetration oil. And finally, if you look at the top of the Cupra bush here, you'll see there's a little bit of silver paint, and this gives you the orientation. The silver paint goes at the top. And once again, with the actual console itself, you know, I just got a little bit of emery paper and just run it around to make sure there's no burring. Right, we're ready to insert the bush. We put the tool round the other way. Now we're going to push the bush back into the console. Yep, oil again. You know, just sort of take your time. Make sure you get the bush in the right way. The bush goes with the flush end towards the back of the car, so it's going to be concave when you're finished. For God's sake, don't put it in wrong. And yeah, just take your time. Be very careful here. If the bush gets particularly tight at any stage, then don't force it, because you don't want to bend or concertina the bush. So just back it off a little bit of oil and just sort of push it all the way in. Now the Cupra bush actually sits about 1 centimetre into the console, so when you do the actual tool fully up like this, you'll notice that you've still got this little centimetre to go. That's got to come all the way through. So this is where you need to adapt the bush tool or the kit that I got on eBay. And it was easily done. I just went to Wix here, got some M12 pre-cut studs, 160mm, less than a fiver. And then I was then able to use that as the actual bolt, reverse the tool again, use the piston part of the tool, and push the bush that final centimetre through, no problem. And it worked a treat. Just used a couple of spanners to do that last little push. And there we go, that's the bush. This is what you want to see. You want the back of the bush flush with the console, and then a quick look around the other side, you'll see that it goes in roughly about sort of 1 centimetre. And that's the Cupra bush fully home. Well done. Right, next we now need to put the wishbone back into the bush. Here again, a little bit of lubrication helps. I use some of this red rubber grease, got off eBay, about £3 a tin. It's quite useful to have it around. It stops squeaks and groans and everything else. And once again, on the wishbone carrier here, it's a good idea just to sort of put a little bit of rubber grease as well. This will just help you get it in. Now they're not heavy, these wishbones, but if you're working on your own, you've got no one to help you. I use a luggage strap here just to sort of take the weight whilst I got it fully aligned into the wishbone. Right, next, get your strap, wrap it around the back of the console, around your wishbone. Be careful that your steering rack there, and you don't want to damage the gator. And you want to get the actual ratchet as far forward as you can to the car, because obviously when you tighten this, the ratchet will be moving towards the console. You're going to find it a little bit tight on the ratchet, so a pair of mole grips will help you. And just simply turn it one notch at a time. Don't rush this, because you'll probably break the ratchet. So one click, stop, and keep going. The final little bit, I just found a little bash here with the soft-ended mallet. All it took was just to locate the bush into its holder. And this is what you want. This is the actual back end of the bush. You want the actual wishbone through, protruding about 3 to 4 millimeters. Okay, once the wishbone is fully into the Cupra bush, you can then go ahead and finger tight the 18mm bolt at the other end of the wishbone. Then you can thread the wishbone back into the bottom joint. Once again, you may need to raise it slightly, but be careful. And then don't forget to torque your bolts down. 20 Newton meters on the 3 smaller bolts, 70 Newton meters on the large 18mm at the back. And that's it. job done. Put your under tray back on, and that's it. You're all finished. Well done.
So there you go. So all the hard work is done. Now your next job, and you really need to do this as soon as possible, is just run your car into your local tyre shop and just get the alignment checked on the steering, because these fitting Cupra bushes or Poweflex bushes, it will alter the alignment. If you don't do that, what will happen is you're going to tear up the inside of your front tyres, and you'll be surprised. You could do that in less than 500 miles, and it's going to cost you a set of tyres, and you're still going to have your tracking done. So don't skimp on that. So I've just had mine done, and as you can see, look, just under £30. It really is money well spent. Okay, so I've taken the car just for a very short drive, just down the dual carriageway, or if you're in America, you'd call that the freeway. And first impressions of these Cupra bushes, really, really quite like them. Some people have commented that it's too harsh. They're too harsh and they crash and bang. I've not noticed really anything like that. DFR, well, it crashes and bangs anyway on the low profile tyres. No, it's been absolutely fine. One or two, I did notice there was a new creak, another one, a new creak has appeared on the dashboard. But if you've got a Mark IV, well, you're kind of used to creaks on the dashboard. And this car now is 7 years old, and unfortunately, that's what you get. But what I did notice straight away, as soon as I pulled away, is that I've now got some real feeling coming through the steering wheel from the actual road surface, which I didn't have before. It's not unpleasant at all. I quite like it. It's just a sort of slight, sort of tremor as you kind of sort of go along on a tarmac, and you can feel the difference between the two levels of tarmac. And that's something I've never had on this car before, even from new, when I first picked it up. And I used to get that kind of feeling on the old Mark 1 MR2, and I quite like it, to be honest. Once you pick up speed, it kind of like it goes away, but on sort of slower speed, you can actually feel the road, and it does give you an idea. And I know from experience that when you drive in sort of wet and freezing weather, that does give you that extra little bit of pre-warning when the front end is going to break away. And I suppose even perhaps if you're driving it hard on the limit in the dry. So I personally quite like that. Some people, it might not be for everyone, but if you want a softer car, well, drive one of those, because that's what I've been driving about in my second car, that old Volvo C70 there, and that's a lovely sort of floaty ride. It's like driving an armchair, but it's not like driving this one. Do you know what I mean? This one's sort of a bit more lively and everything else. So yeah, I'm pleased anyway. I'm pleased with those sort of Cupra bushes. I think that's a good upgrade anyway. Those standard nylon Seat bushes are absolutely crap, and I believe they've uprated them now. But even so, I think you've got to go Cupra, or if you don't want something quite as hard as the Cupra bushes, then certainly go sort of Poweflex bushes, although bearing in mind that's going to cost you a little bit more money. Money-wise, I haven't tied it up completely, but I think with buying the bushes, buying the puller tool, buying the other little tools that I needed, and the tracking, I think I'm in at about 130 quid. So, £130, I don't think that's too bad, especially, because I live down south as well. And, in this sort of area, and unfortunately, if you live down south, certainly in London, you're going to pay quite a lot of money in a garage. Independent garage, well, once again, depends where you live, depends where you go. I reckon you're looking at an hour's labour per side in a garage. So that's anything from sort of £60 to maybe £100, depending on what part of the country. So, yeah, you take it into a garage, I'd say probably a cheap job, maybe 200 quid. You might get it less than that if you know someone, but it could be £200 to £300, I would say. And then also, a garage might be a little bit uncomfortable about fitting the Cupra bushes. They tend to like to replace the whole wishbone in one go, in which case you'd end up getting the softer nylon bushes again. So by doing it yourself, you can choose exactly what you want: Cupra, Poweflex, and a job's well done, and it gives you an opportunity to sort of get under your car and clean a few little things up as well, and it's all part of the experience. Okay, right, I'm going to cut this video off now. Thank you for sticking. I hope it's helped you. Just, as I say, doing this job, it's not complicated, but just, take your time, make sure that you've got all of the tools that you're going to need, get all of the parts in you're going to need. I would say that those 3 little bolts that go at the end of the wishbone into the bottom joint, I would say that, bearing in my car is 2008, 24,000 miles. If yours is going to be older than that, I would say you probably will need to replace those, because mine was slightly going rusty. You probably get away with the larger bolt, but then again, you might as well, if you're going to the dealers for what it costs, £4 or £5, you might as well get that as well. But make sure you get all your parts in, get all your tools in, get the puller, get the strap, get everything in before you start the job, and give yourself plenty of time. You know, don't try and rush this. And I'd say you could do it in a day. I reckon you could probably do it in a full day. I think the first side took me longer. The second side took me just over 2 hours to do, and that was with videoing it as well. Personally, I like to do a bit and take a break and go back to it, because I've got 2 cars. I'm lucky. I'm not in any rush. But allow yourself plenty of time. Ideally, give yourself a full weekend to get the car sort of, completely finished, and just take your time, don't rush it. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. So I hope it's helped you. Any comments, I'll always answer any comments. If I can help you any further, please just leave a comment. If it's any good to you, then like the video. That's always quite nice to get a few likes. Anyway, please come back. I'm going to be doing, this car's getting older now and little things are starting to sort of go wrong, so I will be doing other sort of Ibiza videos in the future. So subscribe and come back. You'll find me on the Seat forum as well. You'll find me on there as Crussell. You can search me. A lot of my fixes that I've done on the car on the forum. The forum's a great place to go, by the way. If you're not on there, get onto the Seat Cupra forum. There's loads and loads of help. Great guys on there, great girls. They'll help you out. Anyway, I'll cut this video now. Cheers. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye now.